In order for transformation to occur, you literally have to embody a different version of yourself than you had become accustomed to, than you were before. You can't be the same person with the same character flaws, the same personality traits, or the same level of traits that you were at one particular stage in the journey. Unfortunately, most people that do transformational programs don't transform. They have a glimpse or an experience of what a transformation could feel like, but they don't actually cross the bridge. And there's a reason for that. It's actually depicted in some of the greatest mythological stories that we all resonate with. And that's one of the reasons that stories are actually so impactful. They're encoded with universal archetypes that are universal to the human experience, that we all actually, on a soul level, we have that information encoded inside of us, right? But then what ends up happening is we bump up against the material world and the world of that we have created or unconsciously created within ourselves and around us, that we have become accustomed to. So that world actually has to disintegrate in a sense, not necessarily in a physical sense, but some things do have to kind of loosen their grip. An archetype from a spiritual perspective is a disembodied spiritual force. It's a living force that seeks to embody itself through the people that are carrying that information. So essentially, it's a set of information that's activating within each individual, and each individual has the choice to take that information, to embody it, and to express it in their own life. So for example, the archetype of a mother, the archetype of the father, the archetype of the son or the daughter. These are not just roles that we play in our lives or in society. These are deeply, deeply encoded archetypical themes that have a lot of depth and have a lot of meaning to it. Just the archetype of the mother has so many different subsets. It's not like, oh, I'm just a mother or I'm just a father, right? In whatever predefined set of rules or instructions that has kind of societally embedded into it. That's a deep, deep archetype that has many different subsets. If you actually understand the archetypes, you'll understand your relationships a little bit deeper. You'll be able to connect with that other person, but most importantly, you'll be able to connect with yourself and what's arising in your heart and your soul through the particular dynamic or the archetype that's seeking to live itself through you. The masculine is an archetype. The feminine is an archetype. It's not just new age, like, oh, divine masculine, divine feminine, watered down thing. It's an archetype that's universal throughout all time and space and all history. It's going back all the way to Adam and Eve and every single biblical story. These are very sacred and very important archetypes that encode information for essentially our own evolutions. Four main archetypes that live inside the masculine are the king, the warrior, the lover, and then the magician. We go through these phases in our life where we're exploring and initiating into each one of these archetypes. So for example, if you are engaging with the warrior archetype, there's certain initiation points that lead you into what's called integration, where you finally integrate and embody that energy as a part of you. Again, the archetypes are spiritual energies that encode information about your own soul journey, about your own evolution. Transformation is not transformation unless you've embodied the complete archetype or the complete experience, whatever that experience may be. In other words, you have to re-own what has been disowned. You have to re-own and recollect the pieces of yourself, the pieces of your psyche that have been disowned or disintegrated from your conscious awareness. That's really where the rubber meets the road, because ultimately these are all archetypical entities that are seeking union, that's the whole kind of template of what we call the twin flame dynamic, is that it's a dynamic between the masculine and the feminine that are seeking union to create wholeness, right? And so this is within all of us. There's a masculine and feminine. Some of us have a proclivity more towards masculine, more towards feminine. Doesn't matter what your gender is. That's not necessarily most relevant. But ultimately, it's a union. It's a unification of the two energies that create life, right? Same thing with water is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. And when they merge together, the earth and the sun, when they come together, they create water, which is the wholeness, the birth of life in liquid, gas, and solid form. Water is the ultimate representation of spirit and matter because it can shift and form and imbue anything, and it can form into anything in its environment. It can become anything, and it actually has information encoded into it based on the environment that water has incubated inside of. Ultimately, what a trauma is it's a disintegrated or an unintegrated archetype or a version of an archetype, typically the shadow side of an archetype that has not been brought to light. So in other words, what is held in the unconscious must become conscious in order for us to be whole, well, and complete, and actually to be healthy, to be psychologically healthy. You know, when you see people that are one way one day, but another day, or very easily triggered, or certain things just come up, basically what that means is that there's something inside that person that hasn't been brought to the light, and it hasn't been integrated as part of their personality, as part of their conscious awareness. So much of this process is actually just sitting with ourselves. It's sitting with ourselves instead of actually going out into the world so quickly and trying to create a movement. It's actually moving within and looking at yourself, you know, and looking at like how does this energy show up in my life?